Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf reportedly said that the Oakland Athletics want either Howard Terminal or Laney College for their new baseball stadium. Basically now revealing what a number of us have known behind the scenes for some time. First of all, and also publicly, as of 2015, the mayor said she wanted the A's at Howard Terminal, but seemingly inexplicably allowed the A's issue to hold up the Raiders and arguably chase them out of the Coliseum. Basically, Libby could have simply called the NFL's bluff. When the NFL said they wanted the land, give it to them. Because we, Oakland, wound up giving Fortress that deal, as opposed to mating the NFL with Fortress and giving both parties that kind of deal. The bottom line is, or just giving the NFL that deal before Fortress entered, or any other kind of combinations of possible pairings that just entered my mind. But I digress. The bottom line is that what Libby gave the picture of is that she didn't want to basically kick the A's off the Coliseum when she could have simply, and Oakland Councilmember President, Oakland Council President Larry Reid engineered a deal to have the A's at Howard Terminal by a time certain and basically give that land to the Raiders and make it clean. But what happened, and what caused me to basically speak critically of the mayor that I refer to as my god sister as much as she is referred to as a brother, me, and she started that, by the way, is that right after the town hall meeting where we gave the Raider fans a great deal of hope this is going to happen, and it was really a great gathering, and it was really good to do. I'm not saying that derisively at all. I mean, that's something that it was a nice time in a bottle sort of moment that you want to keep. Thankfully, I have a live stream of the whole thing. And but the fact of the matter is, we did not give the land to the Raiders, and the idea was, oh, we want to give the A's a chance to figure out what they're going to do. No. What happened, as a friend of mine told me after the vote, a very high-placed Oakland official, is that there's a biotech firm that wants to buy the entire Coliseum property and redevelop it. And with Libby and Oakland Councilmember Kalb, and by behavior, Oakland Council President Larry Reid, and it would seem Lynette Gibson-McElhaney of Council District 3 want to do is give this organization that entire land, which means tear down the Coliseum, tear down a local arena, tear down, that's it, okay? And as Councilmember Kalb said on my video when I interviewed him at the Raiders event, that would end sports at the Coliseum, and arguably in the East Bay, there'll only be one team in the Bay Area. His words. I don't agree with that, but the point is that idea is in his head as opposed to, hey, here's how we can stop this. They left it to the NFL. They should have simply given the NFL the land deal. Libby's statements as of Monday reveal that is precisely what could have been done. What bothered me, and I wrote about this in the text, is that after town hall, or during it, someone leaked a letter from the NFL to the East Bay, should be called the Oakland Tribune-Times. And I thought it was from the NFL. So I called Libby, and Libby said, oh, who at the NFL would do that? And we speculated. So I ran it up the NFL flagpole, contacted people I knew there. Wasn't them. Got a great email from Jeff Pash, the head of NFL Legal, which really opened my eyes. And among other things, he said that the mayor would take letters that were to be sent to the NFL and would wind up in the media first. And apparently, as I talked to other people, this happened several times. So when I called Libby back and I told her what the NFL told me by email, I said to her, I said, so who would do this? And she said, well, I gave it to some electeds. And I said, wait, you sent the email, the letter from the NFL to elected officials? I said, Libby, someone could have leaked it. So then I called Larry Reid, and basically his attitude was, who cares? So that's when I began to just say, you know what, maybe I should just forget about being supportive, because it doesn't matter what I say or do. Given my experience with the league, they're going to go on and do what they want to do. But after my friend called and told me about the biotech deal and how everyone's trying to keep it hush-hush, that's when I figured that what the mayor and Reid were really trying to do was basically nudge the Raiders out of the city, put the A's downtown, and leave that land for that firm, but not tell anybody. The quintessential backroom deal. Horrible stuff. And I say horrible because biotech is not known as one of those industries that employs non-techies and people of color. And the problem with the homeless in Oakland is still very much a problem of non-techies and people of color. And it's becoming an acute problem. So why do this? Just develop that land like that and continue to exacerbate this problem with gentrification as opposed to cultural economic development, which is another subject for another time very soon. But that's when I began to change it, how I looked at the problem. And when I got to the NFL annual meeting, I realized, hey, the NFL's been very good to me for a long time, okay? And I have a lot of relationships there. And I started covering the NFL draft before, I thought of covering the Raiders. In fact, I've never really covered the Raiders as a game. I've covered the draft. I've covered the business of the NFL. I love the NFL. It's always been a part of my life. Well, it's been a part of my life for some time, going back to 1976. Thanks to Otis Sistrunk. That's another story. But I love stadium design, stadium development. I love the sports business. Okay, I've created the Oakland Baseball Sim World around 2 games. You can run the XFL or the Oakland Athletics. You can build stadiums in each of those constructs that I created from scratch using system dynamics in a very esoteric programming language called Fourier macro language. But that's another story. Word to the wise out there. Never learn an esoteric programming language because you'll get stuck paying someone a very high server cost. Anyway. But the bottom line is, for me, I gave the mayor a lot of free advice. Meanwhile, she hired Mitchell Zeiss, $100,000 as-needed contract. And what do we get out of that? Nothing. Because Kaiser Marston liked him? Big deal. Kaiser Marston, I've seen their work with respect to Levi Stadium. Basically, Kaiser Marston takes your watch and tells you what time it is. So, no. All this reminds me of something that Elihu Harris said, my boss, the former mayor of Oakland, one of the best mayors Oakland's ever had. And he said, Zinni, take those brains and use them on yourself because no one in Oakland cares. And it goes back to things like, went back in 2014, I said, Libby could make a task force. The San Francisco-Oakland Bay Area has some of the greatest sports minds in the entire world. People like Andy Dolich, people like Stephanie Martin, who's Director of Communications for Super Bowl 50, or Pat Gallagher of Giants Enterprises, or Keith Bruce, who ran Super Bowl 50, or Kofi Bonner, who built the Cleveland Browns Stadium, almost built a stadium for the 49ers in San Francisco. I mean, I can go on and on. Chrissy Del Lyle, my friend who's in sports and event planning. Beth Schnitzer, my friend who's in sports marketing. Go on and on and on. People who have great relationships with the league, a lot of experience, would made a fantastic task force. Libby didn't do anything like that. Nothing. She left all of these heavy hitters on the sideline. So, and I got Piper Jaffray investment bankers for them in 2015. All this screaming about, we don't have an investment banking firm. Then Fortress came along and saved them. But prior to Fortress, I got Piper Jaffray. I cold called Managing Director Diane Paul. We talked for 45 minutes. She had her arrangement, a 6-person conference call. They were all set to ready to go. Looked at my spreadsheet plan for the Raiders, the Coliseum City reboot, as I call it. Blessed it. Just asked for a bond amortization schedule, which I made. And we went from there. Okay? So Libby has to really shoulder the blame here. Yeah, Mark Davis was hard to deal with, but she blew it with the two allies she needed the most, the NFL and me. Okay? That's just a fact. You can't be afraid to do big deals. And Oakland has too many politicians that are not only afraid to do big deals, but when it comes to sports, instead of dealing with sports as a business, it comes down to, me versus the owner. It doesn't matter if it's Al Davis or Joe Lacob or Chris Cohan or Mark Davis. Why? We still don't have a sports commission in Oakland. We don't have any way of attracting sports in Oakland that's directed. Libby had no point person. She allowed her assistant city administrator, Claudia Campio, to essentially put on training wheels while she's working on one of the most important projects, the Raiders project, in the city's history. It's not good. So, stay tuned. I still believe we can save the Raiders, but we have to be honest about the wrongs we committed, not just the Raiders and the NFL. The NFL's made a ton of mistakes and could get sued up the yin-yang still. But the bottom line is Oakland's made its mistakes too, and that really boils down to the mayor. And the mayor has to really own up to it so we can move forward.